Good morning, gorgeous human beings. It is Manager Critic Monday, and today we're talking about photography. And what do you say what do you talk? How do you talk to yourself and about yourself when you see photographs of yourself? And the reason I'm talking about that today is because it's World Selfie Day, but also as part of being in business, small business owners, we often do need to put photography up there, whether it's just one single profile that goes on our website or whether we're on social media a lot. But also as family, we collect photographs, and I just want to talk about my own journey and my own relationship with the camera, and also some of the things that you can do practically to improve your relationship with yourself, your self-image, and why it's important to do that. So good morning, whoever's just joined me, please put a comment below, say hello. It's always lovely to know who is with me. So we're talking about photographs. So I'm very fortunate. I want to share with you this one. I was probably about 18. There are some more risque photographs. My sister was doing a photography course, and she asked me if I would model for her and her friend, and I was happy to do that. And I assume now that I must have been quite a happy, confident 18-year-old going by some of the other photographs, that I was quite happy to, nothing was showing, just towels draped across and cute cuddly teddy bears and little tongues, trying to do whatever. I was obviously trying to do sexy. The point behind the photo shoot is I was a young, impressionable girl, and the photographer, the lad that was with my sister, said, "Oh, you're really photogenic." Now, what I don't know, and I can't remember, is whether he actually said to my sister, "You are not photogenic," or whether that was just inferred because he gave me a compliment but didn't her. But what I will say is it stuck with me that I was photogenic, and it stuck with her that she wasn't. And it's a really great example, isn't it, of how often do we change our behavior, change who we are, change what we're doing just because one person has said something to us or criticized us. However, probably the most important person to listen to is yourself. And if you're criticizing yourself, and to get that old, I haven't got a magnifying glass anywhere, but I've got my detective hat on. Get your detective hat on, get your magnifying glass out, and actually collect the evidence. What are the clues? So if you are criticizing yourself for your photographs or whatever it might be, it's really, really important to notice the impact that's having on you. So today, I don't know if I can get them up, but I took some photographs ready to go on LinkedIn later. And this is my photo for me today. So this is me with just very little makeup. I've got a bit of lipstick on. But equally, I did one on the side shot here. And the reason I took that side shot is because, and you might not be able to see it, but I think I've got a little bit of a spot or a blemish under my lip. That's where my attention went on that one. But I was taking it because I wanted to take a picture of I've got quite a flat nose here. And as a child, people used to laugh and take the mickey out of me, my parents mainly, saying that they dropped me on my face. But actually, it's a Jonesy nose. It's part of, if I see my auntie and I see my family, I can go, yeah, I know where that nose has come from. But it was often just a thing of comedy. The fact that I've got nostrils that come up here, you know, you can often see everything. I need best friends to let me know if there's any dirty bits there. So it's parts of that. Now, I have a choice when I look at those photographs. I can recognize it's the whole of me. I can focus on the smile, the essence, and the purpose for taking those photographs. Or I can focus on the blemish or the wonky nose. And one of the things that really changed it for me on my journey was when I was a Slim and Well consultant. One of our jobs was to take photographs of ourselves with our before and after journey. So I've left my skinny one. I will go and get it actually. So this was my before photograph. Bear with me. Obviously this was in the bedroom, so bear with me, but that's my skinny one. Okay, now the reality is that this photograph was taken by my 3-year-old. So the angle was quite low and it would make me look wider. Okay, and I needed on my before and after journey on the board for the extremes to look worse. So I was choosing photographs where I looked at my absolute worst. So one of the things that really helped me on my journey was doing that from a place of purposely choosing the worst one and then having another one to be able to compare to show progress. So those of you know the 7 principles of motivated action, progress is really, really important. And this is one of the reasons why I think we don't always get around to doing the change work, is because part of doing change is we have to identify what's not working and we have to confront that, and we have to face that. And so in this particular example of the Slimming World, obviously I would already lost the weight, therefore I was doing it for the purpose of actually celebrating and seeing the differences. However, a number of years later, this photograph of me was on the table, and I remember a brand new member coming in to me and going, "Oh my gosh, how much weight have you lost since you've had to that photograph?" And I was like, none. It was taken last week. And that was when I stopped being critical of myself in photographs, because I've got photographs of me like this where I'm, positioned. And what I've learned is that over the years, that the angle that you take a picture, whether you have lighting, so here I invest, I've got bright lights on, so that whenever I'm on the camera there's a bright lightness there, because I know the angle of the camera and the lighting will have a massive impact as to what's there. But what I also know is I can choose what I put my attention on when I look at the photograph. And sometimes I've got a picture of my best friend and I, we had a really great day. The angle we've taken the picture, both of us got lovely double chins like this. Now I can focus on, oh, I've got a fat chin, I look fat. Or I can go, oh my God, I can remember that day that I had with my best friend. So where you choose to put your attention and how you choose to give yourself feedback in photographs will ultimately determine how you feel about yourself. And one of the other stories I want to talk about photographs is my mum was, when she was very young, she had ringworm, which meant she lost all her hair, and when it grew back it was very fine. So she was very conscious of her look. She also, when I was younger, bought me makeup books because she had no idea about makeup. She was never really taught how to do it, so she didn't have confidence with that. Good morning, Susie. We're just talking about National World Selfie Day today and confidence in photographs. And I'm just saying about my mum didn't really like having a photograph taken. And one of the saddest things is that when she passed away in 2006, we have very few photographs of her. There isn't many. She would be behind the camera rather than taking the camera, being in the photographs. And I know that I started, even though I was told when I was like in my 18 I was photogenic and had a reasonable level of confidence then, because my weight was often talked about. I mean, my weight was talked about in my family since I was about 8 years old, which makes me laugh now when I look at these sort of pictures of me when I was 18. I don't want to get the risque ones out. I'm trying to find one where I don't look so, but I can see in the photographs when I was 18 that I'm quite slim. And yet in my head, I believed I was really big. So one of the things that I did a few years ago that really helped me was I took a year out to love the whole of me. And I started with every single day, I took a part of my body and wrote down everything that I was grateful for that part of the body, what works about that part of the body, what I loved about it. So I started with my hair. And what's really interesting is I have always loved my hair. So that's me in the 80s with a perm. I've always loved my hair. It's never ever felt like it's let me down. It's really straight, but I can perm it. It's been long, it's short. And those who've known me will know that I changed my hair quite a lot. However, when I was going through a lot of change in my life, when I became a mum and my daughter was 9 months old, my husband's dad died, there was a lot going on in our relationship. We were struggling as young parents and dealing with grief for the first time, really. We didn't really have the tools and resources. My hair stayed in a blonde bob for about 10 years. I didn't change it because there was so much other thing going on. But I realised when I went through this project that actually my hair was one of the things that I absolutely loved. I then came down and got to eyebrows, and that was an interesting journaling day. I remember a scar on here where my eyebrows are split in two and being flung off of a roundabout and scraping my head and having to have stitches. And then I remember the nurse going, "Will you stop crying?" And I was like, "But it hurts." So it brought back lots of memories. And so I'm going through, so rather than hating the fact I've got a split in my eyebrow and it doesn't do, how the perfect model eyebrow might be, it was just remembering the courage and the bravery and just what that experience taught me. It taught me about having compassion for people when they're in pain. She didn't have a lot of bedside manner. It definitely left me with an impact. And I went through my nose and, yes, I've got these jet fan nostrils. And I was just saying earlier, Susie, that if I have a booger, there is no doubt you know about it. But do you know what I love about that is that it means I can tell who my best friends are, because they'll go, they'll give me a little bit of a heads up. If I could get back and I know there's boogers and no one's told me, it kind of lets me know, who my friends are, who are confident enough to let me know that I've got something there. So I started to love it for that shape. Whereas I had the Mickey taken out of me because it's quite flat here. My parents used to joke that they dropped me out of the cot, and that's why it's flat. It took me years later before I was a bit older to notice that my auntie's got a nose like that, and it's really part of my mum's side of the family. So it's just that project of going through and actually going through the whole of you. Ears, I did my cheeks, I did my eyelashes, I did my lips. I went through my chin, and at the time I think there was a couple of them. So I was but what do I love about those? What does it teach me about myself? What do I adore? What do I appreciate? And I went through that project over a 12-month period, and I got to June, and I got to my stomach, and I got stuck. And I couldn't shift it. I couldn't move past there. I couldn't think of anything I loved about my tummy. And again, a lot of it was coming from, society saying you shouldn't be this, and you're not healthy if you've got a sticky out tummy, and all the stuff. And I get it that it's true, and I'm certainly learning it now that when I'm looking at what I know about sugar and how it stores around the tummy, I know that eating sugar isn't doing my liver or my kidneys or anything else any good, and therefore it's chucking it out into this area. And I'm learning now about how that impacts my sleep. But back then, all I could see was my stretch marks, and that I was fat, which that must mean that I'm unattractive, which must mean I'm a horrible person, which must mean and I every day I got up from June until the 28th of August, trying to think of something that I loved about my tummy, and I couldn't get there until the 28th of August, which was when then was my daughter's birthday. And I was like, oh yeah, you gave me my daughter. Okay, yeah, I love you for that. So it took me a while, and you might find if you did something similar that it takes a while to find the thing that you can value about that part of you. But I also recognised there was some other stuff that had gone on with me younger, because obviously you've also got your sexual organs around this area. So the next part was also sort of just valuing my own sexuality and being comfortable with the journey that I've been on. And then I got to my legs, which ironically, I realised I really liked my legs, which I didn't know that before either. But I'd been called solid and tree trunk legs as a child. What I now realise is that my parents also said I was the big sister, so I was big. So the language that was being used to describe me, I now know what they meant was athletic and fit. But it wasn't the language that's being used. And I look at pictures of me at 16 and 17 and think, oh my God, I wish I was that big now, because I really wasn't that big when you look at the photographs. But my perception of self was being formed based on language that was being used to describe me. So when I went through this project of actually going through every part of my body, I realised which parts of my body that I got stuck on. There was a couple of places I got stuck, mainly the tummy and the sexuality area. Then I got down to my legs, my knees, and interestingly enough, I quite like my calves and my ankles and my feet, and so it's just a project of going through. So the reason for it is when you've got photographs, it's so easy for you to be drawn in and say oh God, look at my nose, or look at my hair, or look at my whatever. But I want to encourage you to just consider the impact that's having on you. When you talk about yourself like that, the positive payoff might be that you go, oh, I look awful. And maybe your partner goes, oh, you're lovely. It gets you a compliment. Maybe it gets you some reassurance. It gives you some affirmation. But the reality is your system is listening to you. Sorry about that. I must have my emails open. Your system is listening to you more than anybody else. So even though somebody else might say that, when you get a compliment from somebody and it doesn't really land, well, that's because you're not saying nice things to yourself. So it's got nothing to connect with it. The way the brain works is we hear information and we have to connect it with what we already know in order to make sense of it. Otherwise, we have nowhere to file it. So that's when someone tells us something and they're teaching us something, and it's like years away from where we are, where our current understanding. It can feel like a massive chasm between, well, that's what they're telling me I've got to do, and this is what I do, or you're like, oh, I don't get it. So the same with compliments. When you're criticizing yourself, if you criticize yourself, then when someone else criticizes you, it goes wham, because you've already got somewhere to fire it. Your system goes, yep, recognize that, let's bring that in, that's the proof that, yeah, we've got evidence. But equally, if someone gives you a compliment and you don't have any evidence of what you look like and, you know, how you are, then it's got nowhere to file it, got nowhere to hold it. So my really message actually today is to really think about the way that you talk about yourself and the way you talk to yourself when you see a photograph of you. And remember that people who know, like, and trust you, who love you, they see this part of you all of the time. And if you could learn to love yourself in the same way that other people love you, then your relationships will be better, your performance will be better, because you'll spend a lot less time. If you could delete all those hours and minutes every day that you spend criticizing yourself, and you got those back to do something really effective, really productive. So whether you're criticizing your images, whether you're criticizing the time you spend, or how long it takes you to learn things, or how good you are at communicating, or whatever you're doing, if you could delete all of those things, how much more time would you get back if you weren't spending time going over conversations with yourself and about yourself? How much more effective would you be, both in sort of from a performance point of view, but also from in your relationships? How much more effective, how much more time would you have for joyful conversations about what's lovely in life? So I just want to put it out there. If you are struggling with your own personal photograph, remember that other people rely on those photographs to make connection with you, particularly in the business world, but also your family. I'm really sad that I don't have those photographs, so I take quite a lot of photographs now with mine, and I make sure I'm in them, and they might be all at weird angles, and we pull funny faces, and we be absolutely extreme, because it isn't about the perfect picture or the perfect pose or the perfect angle. It's about holding on to the perfect memory, and that's the reason I take my personal photographs. But I also take photographs of what's going on and put them on social media, because it helps other people connect with me, and so that if they are struggling, they know that they feel they have a sense of getting to know me, and therefore more likely to reach out when they need help. Because the driver for me always is, I don't want thousands of people sat at home in tears right now because they're feeling stuck, and they don't know that managing the way that you talk to and about yourself is in their control, and that they can change it, and that just with a little bit of guidance on the outside, it can be so much easier, and that sometimes we do need to hear it outside for it to come in, and for us to start to create that file, to create that storage place where when we hear something else that's good about us, when we hear some other evidence. People struggle for so long trying to do this on their own, because they don't know that sometimes, depending how you learn, you need it externally to be able to create that file internally, and then you start tracking it, and then somebody else tracks it, and between the two of it, you build up this real solid foundation of what makes you awesome. And we all can be awful, and we can all be horrible, and it can all be not very nice at times to ourselves and other people. But if we're committed to managing our critics, committed to talking from a place of compassion and curiosity, then life is a lot easier, life's a lot of fun, and when we've got to go through difficult change, it's easier, because we're more resourced. Our own system is not in flight, freeze, trying to work out how to look after us. We've got more energy and resource to look after other people. So I hope today has been of use to you. I will look forward to hearing your comments. Please share below your selfies. Take a photograph of yourself and pop it up in the comments, and tell us what you love about yourself. What's one of your qualities you really, really treasure about you? What's really good about you? And if you struggle with that, you know where I am. Let's talk. Take care. Have a great week, and I'll see you again Friday, because I am going to be burying myself away. I am getting the book written. I've said it to you. I'm doing it. It's happening. The book will be with the editor by next week. That's my goal. See you. Have a great week, everybody. Speak to you soon.